Welcome to this video. Has it ever happened to you that you've been in a conversation or in a meeting with other people, you thought that everybody was on the same page, and then you left and everybody went off and did their own thing? Maybe they took no action at all, or they took action and it was on the wrong things. Well, this tends to happen so much. And it often happens because we make the assumption that people are clear on what success looks like, on what we're trying to achieve. And actually, just by investing in the dialogue and getting more clear, more explicit about what success looks like, you really have the possibility to increase the amount of ownership and clarity that people have when it comes to execution. So let's get into some of the details. What is a success picture? When do I use it? What makes it clear? And what are some of its key attributes? So a success picture is a future scenario. It describes what will success look like when we've achieved whatever we're working on. What will success look like, not what will the process have been. So for example, if you're defining a new onboarding process for your clients, you might say that the success picture would be that our clients are able to pass through this process in 2 weeks instead of 3 weeks. So you're describing the end result, what you're trying to achieve. That's what's going to mean we've been successful. It's not that it has 5 steps or it has a purple screen or that it only has 3 clicks. Those might be important, but what's really important is that it achieves the end result. So what is it that we're trying to achieve? So when do we use it? Well, you use it anytime 2 or more people are working collaboratively on something. Let's say you're having a one-to-one. You may ask, what would success look like at the end of today's one-to-one? Maybe the answer to that is, I feel much more confident to be able to go and write the proposal for this new client. Simple. Or maybe you might say, we're having regular one-to-ones. What would success look like at the end of a 3-month period if we've been successful? And then you may have a multitude of possible answers. Or maybe you're working with a group to define a new process, and you might say, hey, what would success look like if we're successful at defining this new process? Again, I gave you the example of that in the first one. So whenever 2 or more people are working together, invest in the dialogue, get clear, and define what success looks like. So what makes it clear? There's a difference between activities and outcomes. Activities are describing what we do, the process, the steps, the tasks, the actions that we take. And the outcomes describe what happens, what changes as a result of having taken those actions and those activities. And so if you start defining outcomes, not just activities, then you have a much higher chance that people get really clear on what success looks like, and then they'll be able to take the actions necessary to achieve that. So a difference between an action and an outcome could be something like, we want to send 50 outreach emails, that would be an action, versus we want to increase readership on our blogs by 20%. That's an outcome. So if people are clear on the outcome, they can then think, what are all the different ways that I could achieve that outcome? Okay, so in order for a success picture to be clear, it has some basic attributes. The first one is that it should be simple and clear. For example, like I just said, focused on outcomes and not activities. Second of all, it should be time-bound. If we say we want to increase readership by 20%, but we don't put a date, that could be in 1 year, in 6 months, in 1 week. So we have to put a date. It has to be time-bound. Third is it should be shared. That means that there should be a process of co-creation so that there's a sense of co-ownership around that outcome. And lastly, it should be strategically aligned. In other words, it's not just doing an action for the sake of it. We should say, oh yeah, that's important because our overall strategy is to increase user engagement, for example. So it ties in with the bigger picture. This is a very simple strategy. It can really change the game for you in terms of having much greater clarity and ownership in your team. I hope you found this video useful. Thanks, and bye for now.